Yes, my people, welcome back to Tenacious Trading Group. So today I'll just be showing you a little bit more examples of imbalances. And if we just, let's see. Okay, so you know what? We'll start from here. And within this leg over here, we can see that there were strong sellers. And the reason why there were strong sellers is because there's a lot of imbalances. But how do we know that? Well, we know that because there are imbalances left within the charts. So that's telling me that there were more sellers involved in this, and that sellers were in control. Buyers tried to get involved a few times, but they were just outnumbered. They were just overpowered in this situation here. Hence why there was a strong move down, which left multiple imbalances. So a lot of the time, we can use imbalances as areas of interest. We can use imbalances to help us take trades lower or higher, but we can also use imbalances to let us know what order flow potentially wants to do next. So we have a imbalance over here, and then within this imbalance, we've tapped into it, and we actually disrespected it, but I will talk about that in another video. And then price shoots down. We actually tap into the fractal, which is another area of interest, which I'll be talking about within the next set of my videos. And we end up taking out our lower lows. So now that's an MSB. So within this MSB, where would my areas of interest be? My areas of interest will be my last up down movement, which would be the SNDR. We tap into the SNDR, but it gets disrespected. And then now I'll be looking for price tap into my unmitigated move origin. So we tap into that unmitigated move origin, and within the unmitigated move origin, what do we have? We have a imbalance. So we have a imbalance over here. We've now tapped into it. We do have a nice reaction that pushes us lower, but it's not enough to take out our previous lower low. Internally, what have we done? Because if I know that this is my protected high, and if I know that this is my weak low, everything inside of just internal structure, and we can see that price takes out these highs, price takes out these highs, price takes out these highs. Then we take out these lows with a strong push down. Within that strong push down, what do? We tap into this imbalance. Tapped into it, and what happened? We end up taking out our previous lower low before obviously price starts to switch to the upside. So when it comes to imbalances are just an area of interest. It's not enough to use it by itself. You want to make sure that you're still following the SMAs. You want to make sure that you're still following structure. You want to make sure that you're following your SPS's price sweeps a specific low, specific high in terms of liquidity. Because remember, the price moves off imbalances, liquidity, and supply and demand. Supply and demand, liquidity, and imbalances. These are the three things that helps to move the markets. So if we now look at our most recent zone, what's happened now? Price is now taking out these highs over here. And within taking out these highs, if we just let price play out, we had a strong push down. And what do we know for strong pushes down or strong pushes up? Especially when we leave imbalances such as these, what's that telling us? That sellers are in control. That there were more sellers involved within this leg than there were buyers. So there's always a chance that price wants to come back, tap into it, and continue lower. So we can see that what's it called? We've tapped into it over here, and then we've continued lower. And then what's happened? We've actually taken out our protected low. When we let price play out, we keep pushing lower. We keep pushing lower. Let's see what's gonna happen next. Okay. And then so now this is now my protected high. Price should respect this time, continue to make lower lows and lower highs. And now this is my market structure shift. Within this market structure shift, where is my SNDR? This is my SNDR. Because this is my last or first, this is my first up down movement. So the minute we take out these lows, this helped to contribute taking out these lows. So this is my SNDR. And what's happened? Price has tapped into my SNDR, and within this SNDR, what do we have? We have a imbalance. We have an imbalance. So now you not only have not only do you have one point of interest, you have you have a point of interest within the area of interest. And then what's happened? We reacted from that level, and price ends up taking out our previous lower low. Sorry, this is the current market, and price ends up taking out our previous lower low. And within this price leg, we can see that we have a internal flip. Within this internal flip, we ended up having another internal flip, and then within this internal flip, what have we done? We have tapped into this imbalance. We kind of disrespected it, but we ended up tapping into the big fractal. But fractals will come next. But either way, this is an area of supply and demand, aka unmitigated move origin, aka SNDR, depending on how you see it. And then price taps into it, and then obviously we shoot lower. So one thing to remember is if this is my imbalance, and let's just say, okay, cool. So we have our bullish candle, and then we have another candle over here, and then we have another candle over here. So we know that imbalances are a free candle pattern, right? And this is my imbalance from this candle here. So when price retraces back into that imbalance, if you only, I don't know, tap the 20%, 30%, doesn't really matter, and continue to make higher highs and higher lows, this imbalance is still unmitigated. The reason why this imbalance is still unmitigated because you haven't tapped the 50%. So the easiest way to find your 50% is just to add the middle line. Once you add the middle line, you already know that's still 50%. So there's always a chance, doesn't always happen, but there's always a chance that price may tap back further. Now this imbalance is no longer unmitigated, and then price will continue higher. And there's always chances that price, and another thing to remember is, let's just say price has already mitigated the 50% of this imbalance. I no longer will use this as an area of interest because 50% has already been tapped. So this zone has already been mitigated. There's no need for me to try and look for this area to get retapped and then continue high. If anything, if we now retap into this, there's a likelihood that price will head lower. Because remember, our imbalances act as support and resistance. No? And then price will start to make lower lows and lower highs. But all of this has to be adjacent with market structure, with SMAs, all of that stuff. So once we start to add the SBS in terms of, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all of this will make a little bit more sense. But for now, we're just gonna stick to making sure that we're able to paint out and mark out where our areas of interest are within our zones, and then from there we will start looking at other things to help us take the trade lower or potentially higher. As I always say, victory belongs to the most tenacious, and wherever in order, guys, a good morning, a good afternoon, a good evening, and a good night, and I'll see you lots in the next one. Peace and ciao.